fastest show in sports.
Today I am going to talk to certain NFL fans. And at the end of this conversation, some of you are going to have to clean off the screens, the phones, whatever it is, after all the spit and bile that you've tossed at me, claiming that everything I'm saying is wrong or everything I'm saying is against your team and against your fandom, which it's not. But there's going to be a lot more out there who are going to agree with me, who are going to say, Ed, it's about time somebody said it out loud. And there are certain members of the media and certain people who cover certain teams who will say this out loud, but it's not being said loud enough. And it's also not being said by a lot of the major media because, let's face it, as I've told you many times before, people like ESPN and Fox, they won't go to this length that I'm going to go to because they're in bed with the National Football League. They got to keep them happy. They got to keep the money rolling in. So there's a lot of these people who claim to be NFL analysts and experts who are not going to give you the inside take, who are not going to give you what's really happening because they can't. They just can't do it. So today we're going to talk to you, the fans. And I guarantee you're going to agree with me. As a matter of fact, I urge every single fan who watches this to get in and comment on the YouTube page, send us an email. Go ahead. Tell me why I'm wrong. Because you can't, at the end of the day, tell me anything other than you need to agree with me. These are the teams that, quite frankly, only a masochist would want to go coach these teams for a number of reasons. The reasons mostly come down to the fact that the ownership and management has turned these teams into dumpster fires. And long time, too. And you got to remember something. I'm a fan guy. I speak for the fan. I want the fan to get his and hers money's worth for every single game. I want you to be able to take your kids and your friends and your grandkids and whatever else to go to the game and not have to take out a third, fourth, and fifth mortgage in order to do it. Which means, of course, many of you are not going to the national championship college football game, but that's another story for another day. I simply believe that teams owe the fans the right to do absolutely every single thing they can to be the best they can at every single time. Let's begin. Why on earth would anybody want to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins? Doesn't make any sense. I mean, here's an organization with an owner who makes all the wrong choices, and for whatever reason has decided that he knows the NFL because he has never put anybody completely in charge and walked away from it, which is the smartest thing for an owner to do. Because look, when you're a multi-billionaire and you buy an NFL franchise, you have to realize you're now in charge of that. You're in charge of what is the societal and the community side of this because you have a public trust in order to make that team better, in order to make it contend, in order to bring forth good entertainment, solid entertainment. It is your job at that point to do absolutely every single thing you can to make sure that the franchise succeeds. And in the case of Stephen Ross, hasn't done it. Hired all the wrong people. Let all the wrong people make decisions. And now he's at a point where, well, they've got a new general manager in charge now, which is good. You bring somebody in, but you started the fact you had no general manager, you had no head coach, you had a quarterback that had to go. I mean, this is a franchise that has been in trouble for a long time. The Miami Dolphins used to be a stalwart franchise in the National Football League where everybody looked up at them and said that this is a franchise that you can emulate. Not anymore. I mean, when was the last time the Dolphins were relevant to any conversation? Jimmy Johnson? Okay. Dan Marino? Don Shula? We're talking about ancient history right now. And if you're a fan of the Dolphins, you know exactly what I'm saying is true. So they're going to go out and they're going to find somebody. And not only that, they're talking about Don Shula's grandson, maybe, as a coach. If I was him, I'd run as quickly as I can away from this franchise. This is not a place you want to go and hang your hat and build something, at least not now. Maybe with a GM in charge, maybe so. But there is no reason for anybody to want to be head coach of the Miami Dolphins right now. At this point, it's a dead end. It's a rebuild. If you want to go ahead and be part of a rebuilding organization, go for it. Hey, look, I covered the Dolphins for a lot of years. I'd love to see them get back to some semblance where they're at least looked at as being legitimate, but right now, the Dolphins are not legitimate. The New York Jets are not a legitimate franchise in the NFL. and they haven't been for a long time. I mean, they're a laughingstock. The Jets have not been, and the Jets have made all the wrong hires. They have an ownership that gets involved. They have a fan base. They allow the fan base to run things that happens in New York. I mean, they scream and holler, do the fans. And again, if you're a Jets fan, I'm going to say you deserve to scream and holler. You should. You haven't been given anything. You've basically got a franchise that nobody respects, that has no right whatsoever to be talked about in a playoff consideration, that has no right whatsoever to be talked about as a title contender in any stretch of the imagination. You've had piss-poor coaches. You've had bad draft picks. You've had bad management. You've had bad personnel management. And the Jets haven't been there for a long time. So the Jets, unfortunately, are another one of those franchises that no self-respecting coach, which is why I love it when somebody said, John Harbaugh, are you kidding? There's no way he gets involved in this. The Jets are another franchise that has to go out and find somebody who's basically learning to begin their head coaching career. Take a chance. Maybe they'll succeed. Maybe they'll just go ahead and get a couple of years and they'll get fired and start anew. But if you want to name the New York Jets as a problem, right next to the Jets, you have to put the Las Vegas Raiders. Raiders fans, stop with the macho nonsense, okay? You suck. You suck, and you have for a while. I love how Raiders fans keep going back and living out, we're the big bad Raiders. No, you're not. You're an also-ran. You're a team that nobody looks at and nobody says, you know, I got to look at the Raiders this year and think that they're going to be a contender. You dumped a coach after one season. And not only that, you had one coach sitting there who was one of the most homophobic jerks that the National Football League has ever seen. And he got fired because he couldn't keep his nonsense off social media. Yes, I'm talking to you, Coach Gannon. You know exactly who you are. The Raiders are another team, and again, they are run by a guy, they are owned by a guy who has a haircut that was basically fashioned by a cereal bowl. I mean, not even 10-year-olds would have the kind of haircut that Mark Davis has. Look at this. Do you really want to be this guy? Do you want your fortunes to be run by this? To think that he's going to bring you a Super Bowl? No. Look, Raiders fans, you're not good. You're not going to be good. You won't be good for a long time because you got shit ownership. And stop living on this whole Al Davis thing. Al Davis is dead. Okay? The just win, baby nonsense that Davis put out there, you can't do it anymore. You don't get the right players. You don't get the right coach. You don't have the right management. You don't have the right ownership. And again, only a masochist would want to go to work for this franchise. And finally, there is one other. I know I'm going to get hammered for this. I didn't want to do this out loud, but I have to. Fans of the Cleveland Browns, you got to admit, you suck. Your ownership sucks. Your management sucks. I mean, look at the disaster. And not only that, look, Kevin Stefanski is not a bad coach. He's had a couple of bad seasons, but does that make him a bad coach? I don't think so. I think they made a mistake getting rid of Stefanski. But it's gone. It's out there. And there's a lot of people who are going to say we needed to get rid of him because we weren't getting anywhere. No, you weren't getting anywhere because you were saddled with a 975-year-old quarterback who broke down just about the time everybody figured he would, you had a rookie on the roster whom you thrust into a position of being a leader when he's not even close. And then you had Dion's boy, his son, who basically went to college and got a tremendous amount of yardage in college because his daddy propped him up. And you got people bringing him in here saying that he's the next savior, and he's not. You got a lousy quarterback run from top to bottom. And not only that, but now you got people out there who are screaming that Dion should be the head coach because he's going to bring out the best in his son. Stop! The Cleveland Browns, like so many other franchises, need a complete enema. I mean, and that goes for the Dolphins, the Raiders, the Jets, and the Browns. And look, this is not personal. It's not personal, Sonny. It's business. I'm not out here saying that I hate the franchises or I hate the fan bases in any way, stretch, or form. Look, as I said, I'm a fan guy. I want you to be able to have a team that you can root for. And right now, you can't root for your team because your teams suck. Your teams aren't giving you any reason to really hope. All four of these franchises are going to be living out a 2026 that's going to stink. It's going to be bad. And it might even reach into 2027 because you're starting on a rebuild again. But as fans, you deserve better. You deserve better ownership. You deserve better management. You deserve a better coach. You deserve a better quarterback. You deserve everything better because you're paying the freight. So it's not like I'm out here saying that I hate your teams or that your teams stink. Well, no, wait a minute. I am saying your teams stink. But then again, you know it as well as I do. These are the four franchises that I can't imagine why any former head coach of any repute or even any top offensive or defensive coordinator would want to take these jobs. Because right now it's a dead end. Yeah, you might be able to rebuild, but it's going to take a couple of seasons. I hope, let me say this, Dolphins, Raiders, Browns, Jets. I hope you get back to some level of semblance of reliability, some notability sense to where people are looking at the franchises and you've actually got a chance. I hope you do. But for 2026, it ain't going to happen. Buy all the foam number one fingers that you can because you know as well as I do that you're in rebuilding. And rebuilding in the National Football League can take a couple of years. Good luck. You're going to need it.
Ed Berliner, the fastest show in sports.